Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Cinemologists Radio. I'm your host, Joel Davidson, and today I'm joined by...
Alex Latanzi.
And...
Y2K.
Yes, and today we're actually going to be spotlighting something which I've been wanting to talk about here on the show since we first started it like 2 episodes ago. It's something that we're all really passionate about. It's been a very formative and important part of our love of movies and collecting movies and just enjoying movies, and that is the good old Criterion Collection.
I thought you were talking about Twilight Time.
Get out! Get out of this video!
You dang poacher! You dang place gouger! Get out!
Okay.
So we're going to be talking about the Criterion Collection, a very important home video label. In talking about the Criterion Collection, first off, what is it? I know they have a description for it, a continuing collection of important classic and contemporary films. But what is it to you guys? I guess, Alex, I'll ask you first.
All right.
How would you describe the Criterion Collection to audiences?
Well, it's basically like an archive of sort of the best cinema has to offer. Not just sort of the art house staples like 8.5,
400 Blows, stuff like that.
But to stuff like The Blob and Equinox and Godzilla. And they also release a lot of classics of the era, like On the Waterfront, and some more popular ones are like Rosemary's Baby, and basically anything they can get the rights to that is really worth releasing, or at least like really worth seeing and getting out there, they'll release. And I'd say it's a collection of the best in cinema, and I think there's something for everybody in it. You'll in fact learn a lot about just stuff behind movies, even like not even really filmmaking related, but sometimes they're supplements or like documentaries about like the subjects of a film, if it's a real life subject or something. Back in the Laserdisc days, they used to kind of be called like a film school in a box. Yeah, it was really, they really started the special features sort of inclusion in home video releases.
They created the audio commentary.
Yeah. Criterion is great if you are serious about how you watch movies, and if you want to see kind of the best of what's out there.
Y2K, what stands out to you about the Criterion Collection?
Comic people have their old comics in pristine condition, and they have their figures, and you have the otakus, and they can have their figures and their posters and stuff, and it's kind of like the Criterion Collection is almost like that. They're just like these really prized things that you can sink your money into and not feel bad about it. Initially, you're just kind of like, I'm just buying a movie and it looks cool and it has a really cool casing. And then you start like watching it and its special features, and it is actually incredibly like informative and a really good watch, just hours in each one, really.
Yep.
And I remember a friend actually saying something along the lines of, people always put a lot of weight on like books being able to be the thing that you read books and you're intelligent, but it's just like, you know what? If you don't read any books, but you're making your way through the Criterion Collection, I don't see a difference.
Yeah, that's pretty true, especially with the booklets inside. I mean,
yeah,
some of them are like book length.
It's just like, just kind of like the culture and the knowledge contained within the collection is incredibly vast.
Yeah, I heard somebody on YouTube describe the Criterion Collection as like the movie version of classic leather-bound first edition hardcover books. They're like,
yeah,
it's just, that's how they look on the shelf. And when you pick one up, it's just solid because you got the booklet in there. Yeah, in many ways, the Criterion Collection was my film school. I discovered them at kind of a young age, being in early teens, and collecting them over the years, I just learned so much about film and filmmaking techniques and different filmmakers and whatnot. So it's more than just buying a movie, even though it is buying a movie. And the Criterion label attracted me to movies I would never have bought otherwise. I could never see myself just walking into a video store and pointing to a copy of, let's just say, Last Year at Marienbad and going, yeah, I'm going to buy this. But for some reason, because it had the Criterion label on it, it made it look interesting to me. And then when I read the description, I was pulled into the movie for the movie's sake. And then like going through the special features and learning things about it. In a lot of ways, it's something where I learn a lot from the special features. I love collecting them. And at the same time, I'm exposed to these really amazing movies that I would never have even thought about seeing otherwise. So it's educational, it's exciting, it's fun, and it's something about discovery, like going out there and finding new things and trying new things and taking a chance on a director or a film that sounds interesting, even if you've never heard of it before. Just because it has has a Criterion C on it, and the movie seems interesting. It's something I feel a little bit more safe about taking a chance on a Criterion movie than just about anything else out there.
I would definitely say that there's a lot of movies that I probably would have just shrugged about if it wasn't something that was a Criterion. I can't think of anything specific right now. Probably most Godard movies.
I mean, me too. I don't know if I would have ever picked up Band of Outsiders, if I didn't.
Oh yeah.
I wasn't pulled into it by the collection. Now it's one of my favorite movies.
Breathless is actually like what really like inspired me to want to make movies.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's surprising.
Yeah. So this kind of neatly transitions into the next question, which I'd like to ask you guys, which is, when did you first come across the Criterion Collection?
I forget. I remember it was you telling me about it, though, especially on one of our Barnes & Noble trips, which we took very regularly when we had time.
I remember those days.
I distinctly remember it because just like the first ones that I bought were because like you told me about them and we had like watched them before. Like I think my first one, I think I bought a few my first time, but I think it was definitely the Brazil set. And it might have been about Band of Outsiders. Those two were definitely my first Criterions. And it had to have been like a few years ago, and that's kind of what started me on this horrible addiction.
Yeah, it never leaves. Yeah. So you heard about them from me.
Mm-hmm.
So the question is, where did I hear about them? I heard about them from Alex. So, this is how it happened. I've loved movies all my life. Like, ever since I was little, I'd catch things on public television, or I'd rent movies, or I'd read about them in, different magazines or books or whatnot. I just always loved movies throughout my whole life. And I had this really big attraction to older films, classic films, and cult movies. I couldn't really explain why, but it was just something about them drew me there. There was something unique, there was quality, there was creativity, and I just launched toward those, took to them like a duck to water. But none of my friends really growing up were into those kind of things, so I thought that it was just like a guilty pleasure thing that I did, liking older movies and whatnot. And then I met, Y2K, I met you, and we were both into movies, so we'd start talking about stuff, and it was almost validating in a weird way, oh, you love movies too? Well, me too. And we'd talk about it. And then I met Alex, and Alex was the same way, and he was into cult movies and classic movies. So between the three of us talking, I felt it's hey, this is something I really want to go out and check out. And that's when Alex told me about the Criterion Collection back in, I think it was freshman year of high school for me. Yeah, it was around that time that you showed me Solaris. It just blew my mind seeing Andrei Tarkovsky's Solaris for the first time, because you can imagine being a young teenage kid, early teens. You have a certain list of criteria for what makes a movie good, and to see almost 3-hour long, slowly paced movie in Russian from 1972 that has really open-ended aspects, especially with the ending and whatnot, and is just very strange and, again, slow-moving, and it's just completely unlike anything I'd ever seen before. But at the end of the movie, despite all of those things, I loved it. And it was the first time I'd ever really experienced that before. It was the first foreign film I'd ever seen. And it just completely took me by surprise. I didn't completely understand this, being a dumb teenage kid. It was in Russian, it was slow, it took 3 hours of my life away, and I want to watch it again right now. I couldn't explain it, so I had to seek out more movies like it. And that was my entry into the Criterion Collection. And the thing about it was, I didn't have a job at that time, so it was only through doing odd jobs that I was able to buy these movies. And I didn't know about the Barnes & Noble half-off Criterion sale, or in fact, what bargain hunting was. So I paid $40, full price for all of these different sets, and I'd work for 2 months just to get one Criterion edition, just from mowing lawns and shoveling walks and stuff. So, but each time it was a brand new experience. I remember I got Solaris, I got Spartacus, I got Brazil, because it was the greatest film I had ever seen at that time. I was just oh my gosh, I don't know what that movie did to me, but I need to see it again. And And I think I paid like $50 for it and got a used copy because I was dumb and I didn't know what bargain hunting was. But I just got into it right there and then. The first Criterion Blu-ray I got was Yojimbo, and then I just totally went off the deep end, and that led to the madness. So, Alex, this is all your fault. Explain yourself.
Well, see, I'm glad that I was raised on a lot of these like cult and like adventure genre whatever movies as a kid, so that I was more comfortable with them, because sometimes it did take me like some nudging from my parent and my mom would like rent things and be like, let's watch it. I was like, and then I'd watch it and be like, oh my gosh, like the same thing happened with like Yellow Submarine. I was like, I don't know about that. And then I watched it, I was just like, my life is changing straight now. Just had like stuff like that as a kid, like seeing those things. It really forms like your tastes, your vision, and I remember the Blockbuster that we would rent things from had a really nice selection. I remember that's where I saw like them having like different anime, and I'd like check the back of the boxes, and like the back of Akira, it said like rated R, and I was just like as a young kid, like an animated film being rated R just blew my mind at the time. But actually that was a Criterion Laserdisc too. But the first time I saw Criterions, or kind of became aware of that as like a label, was at that Blockbuster. They had a few there. I remember they had one for Spellbound. I never rented it. Actually, my mom asked if I wanted to rent it, and then like I flashed back to some of the traumatic scenes from that movie, and I was just like, maybe not. Even though I really loved it, I was just like, I don't know if I want to relive that right now. But it's a fantastic movie. But I remember seeing the cover for it, and it was just strange and different as opposed to some of the other like DVD covers around it. It was just the design on it was just different, the way of going about it. And then I remember my mom rented The Seventh Seal. It was the Criterion edition, and it was The Seventh Seal. And I was kind of reluctant to watch that, and I was watching it, and I was like, wow, this is really interesting. I don't know if I got totally into it, but I was like fixated still. I was interested, and I remember being like I was like wondering why there were color bars. And like one of the chapters was like color bars, and I was like, why do I need that? But I remember actually not completely finishing the movie, because at the time I was going to improv class at like some place with a bunch of adults. I had like somehow gotten my way into this adult improv class, but I remember that's how I remember about like what the day I saw The Seventh Seal. I knew about that, and then like 2 years later, I got back from a trip to Italy, and I had like a certain amount of like money left over from that trip, and so I was at Barnes and Noble, and I had already seen Brazil in school, and I was like, I thought it was the greatest movie I'd ever seen, and so I saw they had the 3-disc edition, and I was just like, yes, and grabbed it. I was just really amazed just reading the extras on the back that like people would put this much effort and time into a DVD release. I started collecting more. I think the next one I got was Robinson Crusoe on Mars, and then followed by at a Criterion sale, the Red Shoes and La Jetée and Sans Soleil, and then after that I was like the Tales of Hoffman. And so it was in Tales of Hoffman I first saw on TCM in the morning one day, and I just turned it on, and I just see Robert Roundsville with those like Elton John style glasses on singing, and I'm just like, it's just mesmerizing, like what is going on? And they're all singing, and then I watched the whole movie from there. But I was just it really formed like that transitional. It was like high school and then into college period when I really started collecting them, like Thief of Baghdad. That was one of my first Criterions. And then later on I started to kind of get into like some of the stuff like Three Women. I would be telling my friends, it's like, oh, you gotta check this out, or you gotta look at these things, and then I showed you guys. So that's where that's the rest is history.
So what we learned from this is that Brazil is a universal constant.
Yes.
Basically,
yeah,
yes.
Really.
Like that's, I mean, what else do you need? The movie's amazing. But I remember specifically, Alex, when you were telling me about the Criterion Collection, I was on a beach vacation with my family, and you kept texting me about the Criterion Collection. I'm like, what is this? Like, is it like baseball cards? It's like, he keeps texting me, it's like, they're these movies? And I looked up on Wikipedia, I was like, oh, okay, That's nice. But you wouldn't stop texting me about it. You were like, hey, so which ones do you want to get? I was like, of these movies? And I like went on Wikipedia. I was like, okay, what do they have? Baron Munchausen looks interesting. I was like, well, and you were like, that's only a Laserdisc. I was like, oh, I'll get back to you. And then, that was when you gave me Solaris, let me borrow it. And that's when I knew, actually. Yeah. So I was, completely stupid. I thought it was, I didn't even know what I thought it was. I was like, oh, okay, it's this thing. But then I understood.
Yeah.
You know? It's funny, thinking back to when we were so cavalier about this thing and not caring.
Yeah.
Cut to look at the videos on the YouTube channel in which Joel spends 3 hours deciding which of 3 movies to buy.
And I usually only get one anymore.
Yeah, it's really true. I mean, the Criterion Collection has just been such a part of just movies for us. Over the years, discovering new ones, learning about them, collecting them. It's just been so infectious, that aspect of it. So Y2K, let me pose a little question to you. Your apartment is on fire, and you can only save, let's say 5 Criterion movies. Which ones do you grab in your haste to leave the burning building?
All right. Okay, I have them right here with me.
Okay.
All right.
Visual aids, always good.
Let's see. I would probably... Oh, only 5?
Yeah, you only get 5. It's a very bad fire.
Okay, I want to say... All right, 7 Samurai.
Okay.
Beauty and the Beast. Yojimbo, House, and Tales of Hoffman.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, nice.
That's a good 5. So tell me, Y2K, why did you pick those?
Well, Tales of Hoffman because it's out of print.
Very smart.
And the other ones, House because because of what it is. I remember when you guys first showed me it, and I had no idea what I was expecting to go into, but it wasn't that. It was during a horror movie night, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I was laughing a bit too much.
We all were.
Mm-hmm.
But, it felt so intentional on the movie's part, too.
Mm-hmm.
It was just, it's so, yeah.
Yeah, it's like Scooby-Doo meets Mario Bava done Japanese style.
That's what it says on the back of the box, even.
I know. It's like I ripped it off right from the back of the box.
Basically.
Yeah.
And then, 7 Samurai, because it's 7 Samurai, it's classic.
Mm-hmm. Great extras, too.
I chose Yojimbo because that was also one of my first Criterions. And it was probably actually one of the movies that really got me into samurai movies. I watched Yojimbo and I had been kind of I was an anime nerd, but I haven't watched many actual Japanese movies. But I watched Yojimbo and I'm just yes.
I mean, how could you not? Right from the opening when the dog walks out with a severed hand in his mouth and you know that the town is just all trouble. I mean, that just sucks you in right there.
Yeah, and then what are my other ones?
Beauty and the Beast.
Mostly because of just what that is in comparative to modern audiences who know very much the Disney version. I really just like to show people this one. Just because it's so different and interesting. What was the other one I named?
That's 5.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So the rest of your collection is now gone.
Okay.
That sounded so pitiful. Especially through the tinny webcam speakers. It was just...
There.
It's just...
Even just, thinking about that hypothetically, just... Yeah.
Oh.
There's, $1,000 in here.
Yeah.
Not even kidding.
Yeah, it's true. That's very true. It's funny, Y2K, when you mentioned the night that we first watched Houseu, however you want to pronounce it. When we first watched House, remember we had the windows open because it was an October night and there was the wind blowing outside.
And that particularly terrible noise?
We heard a 3-car pileup.
Oh, that's what it was.
There's a major highway several miles from my house, and all of a sudden we just hear screeching tires, and then we hear, and then we hear another set of screeching tires, and then we hear coming out of the window. We just pause the movie for a second and then go, did we just hear a 3-car pileup? So, Alex, your
I could say
house
top
is on
5.
fire, and
My Criterions are on fire. Which ones? Okay, Tales of Hoffman, The Red Shoes, Pierrot Le Fou. Jeez. Head.
Should we just skip this when it comes to Joel? We'll be here for 3 hours.
Hey, I already bought them. It won't be...
Figure it out. Yeah.
You got one more.
Oh gosh, and let's see.
See, now I'm looking through my collection and I'm feeling really bad. I'm like, no, I left Tokyo Drifter behind.
Well, that just makes it all worthwhile.
That will...
You know why. Okay, so here's a story for you folks. One day I went into the local Barnes & Noble, dead set on getting Tokyo Drifter, and then who should walk out of said Barnes & Noble with the only copy there of Tokyo Drifter but Y2K. And I was like, oh... I go in there asking them if they have another copy, and they said, do you mean Tokyo Drift? Needless to say, I did not leave with my quarry, but...
Weren't you on crutches at the time as well?
Oh my gosh, yes, you're right. Yeah, I was, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm still waiting for your last one.
Yeah, and Contempt, because that's out of print, and that's very out of print.
Very strategic. Why those 5?
Contempt, because, well, it's out of print, and I know that a lot of people want it badly, but it's also really good. It's one of the Godard films that I enjoy a lot, and it's a very good release. It has some really nice extras on it. And Pierrot Le Fou, I love that film immensely. Just the colors, the photography, just the music, just the camera movements, the characters. Anna Karina, just favorite actress. I adore her. Probably the most beautiful woman I've ever seen on screen. Every role she's in, she just comes to life as a real, living, breathing. Like, I mean, she's a fully fleshed out, well-rounded personality on screen. Like all the stuff she does, and everything. And I think I got Jean-Paul Belmondo, and just a very interesting story that, like, at first took me aback at just the way it was told, but I think that was just because I wasn't as used to Godard. But every time I rewatch it, I really enjoy the heck out of it. What was the other ones? The
Red Shoes.
Red Shoes, because that's extremely inspirational, and being like an artist, being someone who does a lot of stuff in that realm of the arts. I can appreciate a lot of the little nuances and stuff in the characters and the reactions. There's like a scene in the movie where the composer Julian is like given the assignment to write the Red Shoes and the music for the score of the ballet, and he suddenly drifts off. His mind wanders, and you hear these ethereal sort of tones of music forming, and that's like his creative mind immediately jumping into like forming that. And I understand that completely. Like, they didn't have to explain it or anything. It's just it's this weird moment. It's there, but like I understand, like, when something's kind of put before me as a creative project, the imagination just gets turning, and it's really amazing. And the central ballet sequence is phenomenal, and it just the drama of the film just reaching its climax is extremely heartrending. Let's see, and then Tales of Hoffman is hoot. It's so much fun. All the sets, the costumes, the characters are just these larger-than-life things with, like, for an opera, obviously, but it's the best opera film ever made, because it's so cinematic, and it's just so magical with all these camera tricks and, visual sleight of hand, and the music itself is catchy, is memorable. It goes hand in hand with the visuals. And there's so much trickery going on. All these really beautiful set designs by Hein Heckroth, and it's fantastic. And what was the other one?
Head.
Oh. Gosh, yeah, okay. The Monkees. I love the Monkees. I freaking love the Monkees. My favorite band. I've actually seen them live, and which is ridiculous for someone my age. But Head was something I discovered only a few years ago, but I had heard about it and I watched it. I actually watched the old Rhino DVD release, which isn't that great shape. But I knew the Monkees TV show because it was on TV when I was a kid. And I'm watching it and stuff is happening that's completely, quite betraying, but it's like, it almost is betraying like the TV image of the Monkees. But at the same time, it's like, it's amazing, it's vivacious, it's got all this clever wit in it and just a lot of ahead of its time stuff, and the music is fantastic. All the songs are great, and it's wonderful. It's got this bizarre screaming cameo by Timothy Carey, and Frank Zappa appears in it
with a talking cow.
With a talking cow, which is wonderful, and then Davy Jones does a Broadway singing and dance number. It is a wonderful film, and I think that was it. Yeah. Those are my 5.
Okay.
If I had to.
I remember watching Head with you guys. I think almost pretty much as soon as you actually bought it.
That day.
I didn't know what I was getting into, and I kind of still don't. And I like it that way. The dolphins.
And the mermaids. Don't forget the mermaids.
There weren't any dolphins.
There was a porpoise.
The porpoise song.
Oh, porpoise. That's
the purpose-driven porpoise.
the purpose of the porpoise. And
talk about desert island books there.
So my house is on fire, and I have to pick 5.
I better get out.
I'm going to assume that since your houses both coincidentally burned down, that you still have those ones. So I'm not going to pick any ones that you guys have. So my 5 will be Brazil, F for Fake, The Life and Death of Colonel Blimp. Oh dear. The Three Colors trilogy.
Wouldn't they count as 3 movies?
No, it's just one. It's just one box set.
I'm sure.
I cheated the system.
Okay, yeah, if you grab a box, I guess. If you grab a box.
No, I have to open up this set and then pull... Okay, you know what? I won't count that actually because you only picked Head. So we'll stick
the thing is, I wouldn't have saved the whole box set of the BBS story though. Like I would have just grabbed Head. So I think you can. I think you can safely like
you would have ripped open the box and saved a safe place and drive. He said.
Oh,
I gotta get him out of here.
I don't
Mom.
even think Henry Jaglin would have done that. All right.
Okay.
No, it's a nice movie. No, well, no, you can have the Three Colors trilogy.
Okay,
I think that's good. This is a box, yeah.
All right. Oh dear. Now I have to pick between.
It's always the hardest one. The last is always the hardest, folks.
Okay.
While he's deciding, let's all just take a minute to realize. Honestly, okay, here's the thing. Like, we postulated this before. Every time we go to a Criterion sale, we're always looking for, like, I wonder if, we do see people shopping for Criterions. Very seldom are there any, we see any women buying Criterions. Yeah. Which, I would love to see them there, but maybe a lot of them buy online. I don't know. It's
that might be it. I have a couple of times, like, going in the afternoon. I do sometimes see women there, but they're usually, like, really elegant, intelligent-looking women in their mid-30s who are just, and they're usually married. I can always tell. So it's like...
He scoped them out from a mile away.
Ma'am, I've been...
Oh my gosh. So... Yeah, well, maybe it's just a New Jersey thing.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just a New Jersey thing that we just don't see. Like, if we went to, say, I don't know, there are Barnes & Nobles in Portland, Oregon. Well, anything but New Jersey, maybe, it might be a different story.
Possibly. Let us know.
Don't take this as us being like, oh, there aren't any Criterion women fans. And we know there are a lot of Criterion women fans, and we're very glad that there are, because hopefully I'll meet one day, and we'll have a great conversation about
That'd be great. As Alex said, this is not complaining. This is actually a very clever attempt by me to stall from choosing my last 2 films.
So I was just taking on time because I knew it would take this long. See Y2K, we knew.
Okay.
Yeah.
I should have listened.
This is what he says all the time.
Okay.
He always denies it, but it always takes so long.
Okay, I'm gonna pick Band of Outsiders and the Royal Tenenbaums. Aha.
All right.
Sounds great.
Okay, so my 5. I picked Brazil because it's quite possibly my favorite movie of all time. Has a lot of sentimental value. Sentimental value? Vitavidium Vitamin. It has a lot of sentimental value because it was one of the first Criterions I ever owned, and one of the first movies that made me love movies, really. So, and it's an absolutely incredible, packed to the gills set with regards to extras. I picked F for Fake because I think it's possibly the best Criterion release out there. It's tied for my favorite Orson Welles movie, who's tied for my favorite director. So, favorite movie from favorite director there. And it also has, as a special feature, another one of my favorite movies of all time, which is an 88-minute documentary about the making of Orson Welles' many unfinished films. For me, that's not even a question. It's an amazing film that just blew my mind the first time I saw it and has delighted me every time since. Every time I show it to people, no matter who they are, they're just fascinated by this unbelievably fast-paced documentary film. Like, it doesn't even feel like a documentary. It's faster paced than most action films are, but it's so thought-provoking and so exciting and so surprising, the different twists and turns that it takes. So F for Fake is my second choice. My third choice is The Life and Death of Colonel Blimp, which I chose because thankfully Alex decided to save the red shoes from his house fire. So I chose The Life and Death of Colonel Blimp because Michael Powell and Emmerich Pressburger are two of the greatest filmmakers who ever lived. They just churned out the greatest British film of all time after the greatest British film of all time. Just like over and over again, they just kept making these masterpieces. And The Life and Death of Colonel Blimp is certainly one of those. Amazing story, amazing central performances from the three leads. Roger Livesey, who's a criminally underrated actor, Anton Volbruch, who's another criminally underrated actor, and Deborah Kerr, who's a rightfully celebrated actress. All three are amazing in the film. It's just a beautiful story that just, at the beginning of the film, shows you a man who you already have a very strong opinion of, an old-fashioned, crusty British general with a soup-catching mustache. And then over the course of the movie, you understand why he is the way he is, and you grow to love him. So it just totally changes your perception of him. And many other things, actually. There's so many things going on. It's such a rich story, and I absolutely love it. So that's the next one that I picked. I picked The Band of Outsiders because it is, without a doubt, one of my favorite films of all time. It's one of the most infectious films I've ever seen. Every time I see it, I want to go out and immediately make a movie just because it's so spare, and it just makes such a great, entertaining, exciting, and funny crime thriller from the barest minimum of ingredients. All it takes is just talent, style, and a really great cast, and you can do pretty much anything that you want to, which I think is incredibly inspiring. But such a great film, so many iconic moments in it. And my final choice was The Royal Tenenbaums because it's my favorite Wes Anderson movie. It's just a great film overall, and I think it's such an awesome encapsulation of his entire career just in one film, with an amazing cast and a gorgeous Blu-ray transfer from Criterion. So those are my 5, I would say. And I'm crying right now because I realize that my copy of Badlands and my copy of Solaris is currently melting right now in the burning remains of my home.
I left your copy of Late Spring at my house.
That was mine.
Oh, well, them's the breaks.
I'm never letting you borrow my movies again.
I didn't even watch it, so there you go.
How was it?
It was, I don't know, I didn't watch it.
It's
been months since I read it.
And how was it?
Yeah.
Oh, at least somebody got that. All right, good.
Ozu. I've never watched Ozu. I borrowed it because I maybe forced myself to watch Ozu because I have had almost zero interest in Ozu. I just, it's not really my thing, but maybe I'll go outside my comfort zone and it'll be really good.
See, right now he's, Zoo. And hopefully, eventually, he's going to be, Zoo.
Oh my gosh. So,
right.
I have a, the one thing I did want to mention about Criterion, which, recent developments have been very positive about, was there's sort of, for a while, there was this sort of unspoken stigma that people thought they had towards animation. And they did release Akira on Laserdisc back in the day with a very extremely well done release, just chock full of really wonderful extras, but nothing since then. And until Fantastic Mr. Fox last year, and then again Watership Down this year. So either they're doing one a year or whatever. Either way, I'm really happy and extremely excited, especially because of Watership Down, because I kind of knew that they might get around to Fantastic Mr. Fox anyway, because it's a Wes Anderson film. But the thing is, we made a video. You know, we had a video of like the animated films that I want to see on the Criterion Collection, and Plague Dogs was one. It's just like sort of a spiritual follow-up to Watership Down, so I'm kind of hoping that they saw the video and thought it was, hey, let's put this, yeah, maybe. But maybe I think maybe like Plague Dogs might be next for something, I hope.
One can
and then
hope.
he's secretly hoping for Do You Remember Love?
Yeah, I know that's less likely, but I mean, if they're gonna release any anime, I think what they might be best off doing is the Anime Rama trilogy or the Mushi Productions Anime Rama trilogy.
It's almost like the animated equivalent of like the trilogy of life in a way. It's like kind of along the similar.
Yeah, it really kind of is in a way. You've got 1001 Nights, Cleopatra, and then Belladonna, Tragedy of Belladonna, or Belladonna of Sadness, which that film just got a 4K restoration, is getting a domestic US release, theatrical, home video, like Blu-ray, and then like on demand. Like they are like from Cinemolicious Picks, some distribution company. And I mean, what a company to be distributing Belladonna, I'll tell you that. But that movie, I mean, I could kind of see that, definitely as something Criterion would release. I kind of hope that they look into maybe like distributing that on their own, because it's kind of a work of art in its own. It's like there's a good amount of animation that needs to be released. I'm not gonna say like Ghibli films or anything like that, because those are getting released by Disney and they look wonderful and they're fine, even though the extras do kind of suck now and then. I mean, can I just say something about the extras on Disney DVDs and Blu-rays?
You seem determined to.
Yes, they're fluff. They're nothing but fluff. Sometimes the behind the microphone featurettes are interesting.
They're entertaining.
But they're entertaining, and they have kind of a cringe factor. When Patrick Stewart is talking about how matching mustache movements for Lord Yupa and Nausicaa, or Christian Bale talking about some things. But there was one extra though on the Princess Mononoke Blu-ray, which was really awesome, and it wasn't even an American extra. It was like something from Japan, and it was about Miyazaki's U.S. kind of interview tour, festival tour, promoting Mononoke in the U.S., and it's really, really cool. He visits Disney Studios at one point, and they're working on Atlantis, and you actually see him flipping through some of the drawings, and it's just like, oh, it's so cool, and like, it's like, wow, well, at least you found this. That's actually really good. Like, that's kind of something that Criterion would do. Like, they would kind of scour the land to find the best extras and stuff, but I'm sure you can find some great extras for some of the animated films out there that you could release. It's just a lot of the really wonderful anime films are based from TV shows.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, if they even did consider releasing one of those, like, it would be kind of tricky, but
there have been some examples though of Criterion releasing films that are based off of pre-existing TV series or stuff like that. Like Three Outlaw Samurai was a television series before it was a film.
I did not know.
There are other examples of that as well. I can't think of them off the top of my head, but like other things which are based in television, and then, well, I mean, the Monkees, I guess, would kind of count in a way.
Yeah,
they're a cultural thing. Yeah, personally, I'm really holding out for a really nice release of Cricket on the Hearth.
Diamonds, and ocean trips. Okay.
Right.
So anyway, let's say you meet somebody who is getting into collecting movies, and they've heard of this Criterion Collection thing, but they're really thrown off by it. They don't know where to begin. They're a little cautious because of the price point. What would be some advice? I'll just throw this out there to both you, Y2K, and you, Alex. What advice would you give to somebody who's new to collecting and might be interested in checking out the Criterion Collection for the first time?
Well,
go to the sales.
Yes, sales definitely the best place to start. Like, look through the catalog on the website, find something that strikes your fancy, wait for the sale, buy it so you don't feel like you wasted as much money if you don't care for it at all. And I mean, yeah, I like if I'm with like a group of people and I'm trying to get them into like some of the other movies I like, but I don't want to just like suddenly throw them into like Blue Velvet or something, you know, or just like throw them into the
or watch The Cremator.
yeah, or something like that. Like I'll probably like say, here, let's watch Charade. You know. Like that works like a charm every time. They love that, even if they're not used to watching movies like that.
I think just kind of like follow the pattern that we did, really. Just kind of like look at what they have and just kind of like find a movie that you already know you like. Just kind of like pick that one up and see what they do with it. And from there, you might look at something that maybe you don't know what it is, but you're kind of curious. And it's just like, it's usually always worth it.
Yeah, definitely. I'd agree with that. Yeah. And like Alex and Y2K said, wait for the sales. Barnes & Noble has a 50% off sale every July and every November.
They haven't replaced them with toys yet.
Oh gosh,
Yeah.
that is a sore moment. That was a sore moment.
Well, hold on to that. Don't let it soar off. We'll get there in a second. Thank you.
Right now,
I'll be here all week. I got nowhere else to be. Yeah, so wait for the sales in July and November, and then Amazon also frequently has 50% off sales as well. And Criterion's website usually has one around Valentine's Day, where you can get 50% off with a promo code. So, and yeah, I'd also agree with that. Find a movie that you love, pick it up from Criterion during one of the sales. If you like that, dive in deeper, blind buy something that seems interesting to you or strikes your fancy, and pretty much just go from there, really. And obviously, you can use some of our recommendations as a guide. I think F for Fake could be a splendid first Criterion pickup. Brazil as well. There are just a lot of different really awesome movies out there that you can check out. So, and the ones that Alex and Y2K mentioned are gold as well. So definitely check those out. But
so, as we were wont to do often, is go to the Barnes & Noble Criterion 50 off sale every time it comes around and do a video while we're buying stuff. So there was a Barnes & Noble over in Cherry Hill, New Jersey, which had an amazing selection, just a great selection, an array of music and movies. And we go in all hopeful and everything, and as we walk closer and closer towards the back, we suddenly realize that something is very, very wrong and different about this place. And replacing the DVD and music section was a toy section. I kid you not, a toy section in a Barnes & Noble. Now, this has been happening a lot. Fortunately, the one near me put toys in, but it wasn't near the music and movie section. But I mean, like, I was livid. I was so angry because I didn't understand, and it was like there's this huge Lego man statue. I was like Charlton Heston at the end of Planet of the Apes with like the Statue of Liberty, just saying, "You did! You blew it up!"
I remember when we left the store, you karate kicked a sapling.
Before that, I'm just wandering the aisles just enough, and eventually I'm just like, freaking kids section. And some employee's like, "Can I help you?" She's like, "No." At that point, we got out of there. Fortunately, we went to another one, but
we have an entire video of this.
Oh yeah, that's right. There's video evidence.
Yes, there's a video of this, and you can kind of see me trying to, not really kicking, but I'm like feigning a kick on a sapling. Actually, I do have one question. Are there any Criterions out there? Because we do say, like, oh, it's great, Criterion releases all kinds of movies and whatnot. But are there any Criterions out there that you think really should not have been put in the collection? Or just kind of like, no, like, maybe not?
Yeah, for me, Armageddon. It's the obvious choice, but I'm gonna go for it.
Yeah. I forgot that.
That's still in print, too.
It is.
And The Rock.
It is?
Yeah. It's still out there. You can buy it in store, the Criterion edition of Armageddon. See, here's the thing. I am happy that The Rock is in the Criterion Collection. If you're going to put a Michael Bay in the Criterion Collection, The Rock is a perfect choice. It is kind of an important movie because it's just a great example of like late 90s, early 2000s blockbuster action movies. Mm-hmm. It's a great example of that. The cast is a lot of fun. It's an awesome movie. Armageddon? I don't think so. I don't think it deserves a place on the shelf next to the Red Shoes and Solaris and all that stuff. No, but The Rock, I mean, you know, hey, I'm down for that being in there.
I'm out of fries.
Oh.
Good old Poppy Toppy fries.
Oh, you went to Poppy Toppies.
Oh, Poppy Toppy.
Poppy Toppies.
Tell us about... Well,
ladies and gentlemen, for those who don't know, this video is brought to you by Popeyes, Louisiana chicken. No, but we do love Popeyes, Louisiana-style chicken. And,
which we call Poppy Toppies.
We started calling it Poppy Toppies, which... yes, we do admit does sound like a 1940s strip club.
That's in fact why we call it that.
Because, well, okay, the thing is, we were driving home, we were driving Y2K home one day, and...
which was not on fire. This is Criterion Collection.
It was like 11:30 at night, and we passed the Popeyes, and I'm just delirious, and I look at it and I was just like, Poppy Toppies. And you're like, sounds like a 1940s strip club. And so I just go off and just like, oh, Harold, have you been going to Poppy Toppies again? It's like, no, I haven't going to the other one across the... I mean, and then suddenly across the living room, the grandma chimes in, I used to work at Poppy Toppies.
Grandma!
They used to call me the Queen of Sass.
Oh, no, I didn't need to know that, Grandma.
Yeah. And there you have it.
And the legend was born.
I love me some Poppy Toppies, though.
Thank you. I imagine you're standing up amidst a room of seated people, a la Charles Foster Kane.
Okay.
That's the best Orson Welles impression since Maurice LaMarche.
I just imagined Y2K as like still images clapping, just cutting to the neck, just back and forth.
Good.
Well, this has been a long-winded episode.
But yeah, so do we have any parting shots about the Criterion Collection? Obviously, we love it. Not all of the movies necessarily. Armageddon. But we do love it. It's a wonderful home video label. Do you have any last-minute words of affection for the Criterion Collection, or things to tell people who might be interested in starting out?
Parting shot, I'd say I hope I can get in their closet someday. Yeah.
Yeah.
They have the
good
closet
night,
videos
everybody.
where like they have those DVDs and people can go in there and pick out movies and stuff. My favorite one is Bill Hader's.
That's a classic one.
But yeah, they've had some cool people in there, and hopefully once we've done things, I don't Yeah, the Criterion Collection has done wonderful things, and I hope they keep doing wonderful things and keep spreading the range of their diverse collection.
Indeed.
I think an important thing, definitely for anyone like going into collecting them, I think it's like, don't ever feel pressured to just like get all of them or ones that you think you wouldn't like just for the fact that they're Criterion. Like, it's an incredibly diverse range of movies, and you know it's okay to have 3 and only have 3.
Yeah. If those are the ones you're really gonna love, there are almost 800 of them now. They're definitely in the 700s, and I have no delusions about getting all of them. But the 70 or so I do have on my shelf, I love dearly. And you know, there are certainly some other ones that I want to get, but I have no intention of getting all 800, you know, that are going to be coming out soon. So yeah,
actually, they're kind of approaching the same number of Pokemon that there is now.
No, they've definitely surpassed it. There's only 720 Pokemon,
Well,
of which I have 700.
Wow, he really did catch them all.
I did, actually. I am only going through a Omega Ruby to re-catch them all, because it wouldn't...
Do you think that Criterion will ever release Pokemon in the first movie because of its cultural significance?
Heck no, it's animated.
They just released. They just started releasing.
Oh, I can't make that joke anymore.
It'll come with a promotional Pokemon card, like
Ooh.
they did at the theater.
I would love to see the extras on that one.
This has been a very fun episode to do.
Yeah.
Obviously, love the Criterion Collection, love talking about it, and we loved having you here listening. So until next time, I'm Joel.
I'm Alex.
And I'm Y2K.
So remember,
Stay crispy, folks, like a fire.